Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. So today I've got my brother from another mother back in the house. His name is Christopher Rausch, and I'm really excited because we did an episode way before, and that was on fire. And if you want to know his story, then go back and watch that episode. It was fantastic. It's about his story, his life, his book that he's got coming out as well. But today we're going to do something really special. We're going to jump in. We're going to talk about resiliency because this is the guy who's been totally resilient all his life and has bounced from being a homeless school dropout to becoming a really well respected coach and teacher, if you like. So we're going to jump right into the episode. You're going to meet Chris, and hopefully he's going to change your minds around in your mindset. God bless. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is Jock, and this is 21 Virtues. Now, you guys, as I mentioned before, you know him. If you want to know his story, then go and listen to Awareness in Action, the episode I did on Rising Phoenix. I can't actually remember the name of it is, but my very, very, very good friend, my brother from another mother, Christopher Rausch, is in the house. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, brother Jock. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's great to see you as well. As you're rocking away there, I can see the beautiful guitars in the background. And, today, Chris, I thought we would, people know, if people want to know your story, they can go away and they can listen to that episode we did because that was on fire. And although we've changed to 21 Virtues now, I thought what we'd do is you're going to jump into your superpower and hopefully give our listeners freaking gold. Because today we're going to be talking about resiliency. What does it mean to be resilient? And there is no one that I know that has been as resilient as this man here. So, Chris, what does it mean to you? What does resiliency mean to you?
Resiliency means doing what you don't want to do when you don't feel like doing it because on the other side of it, it's going to be for your best interest.
And how do you see that? For most people, how do we look at resiliency? There's one of the things that I think about is that people go through trials, tribulation, struggle, and you're no stranger to that because you have struggled in your life and you have overcome. But what sort of events from your own past, and also in other people's lives, do you think that they go through that causes them to have a resilient mindset?
I think it's like having a bigger picture. I think it's having clarity on who you want to be and where you want to go, and understanding the fact that the hero's journey, which we know the Joseph Campbell story of the hero's journey, the fact that we're going to go through those peaks and valleys, and that ultimately when we get to the peak, we have to sit there and we have to enjoy that view because we worked our ass off to be able to get there, but also know and understand in our life, we're going to have those valleys as well. And those valleys are where we actually learn and grow the most. Because when I ask you, Jock, when have you learned and grown the most? During good times or bad times? Obviously.
It's always true. Yeah, exactly. It's always through those bad times.
Right. So you actually have to have a mindset to look forward to those challenges because that's what's going to make you sharper. That's what's going to make you stronger. That's what's going to bring you that resiliency, is to look at that obstacle or that challenge and sit there and rekey your mind to sit there and say, this is an opportunity. Like whenever I'm faced with a challenge, and I've had my fair share, I now ask myself, what am I supposed to learn out of this particular situation? Rather than why does it keep happening to me? Why? I've already done why? I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to learn out of this? Because we're here to learn lessons. We're here to gain experience, to be able to further our experience in our soul journey. So yeah, resiliency is amazing. When you have it, it's great. When you don't have it, that's something to really aspire to get. And so many people hold themselves back by their own excuses and their own limitations, and they blame everybody else for why they're not where they're at. When all you have to do is look within yourself and look in the mirror and realize you just have to get stronger and better and surround yourself with the right people and go after it.
Why do you think people have got an aversion to being resilient? Or because we see people out there, you're known as a no excuses coach, but you see people out there that are constantly making excuses, or they just revel in being in bad times because they want the attention. But why do you think people are so averse to becoming resilient? Because that's what I see. I see people that are averse to it.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jock. I mean, when I see people that are okay with being not resilient, that's where the old adage comes back to misery loves company. And so for so many people, that victim mindset works for them. Oh, Chris, it's okay. You were homeless. You slept in the backseat of a station wagon. It's okay that you're not very good at loving and being cuddly. Oh, Chris, you had this. That's okay that you're no. I'm not going to let anybody placate me. Those things happen for me to make me the man that I am today. And I always invite people to sit there and think, what if everything in your entire life, all the good times, all the bad times, right up until this very moment was preparing you for what's next? But so oftentimes we're looking in the back or we're worried about the future that we're not paying attention to what's going on right now.
So many people are terrified.
I get so much attention. Oh, poor me. You know, that stems back from our childhood too. Was mama a coddler? Did you not learn how to do your laundry and take care of dishes until you were 20? Okay. Oh, I don't want to do that. And then it goes also back to the reptilian brain that we're really hunter-gatherers. And so, you know, we're not supposed to stay comfortable. We're supposed to be out there hunting and gathering our food. Our reptilian brain says that. So everybody wants comfort. We got the Amazon situation. We got microwaves. We got everything with instant gratification. Yet to go out there and live your true life and really be resilient, you have to get off your ass and go sweat. I call it blood, sweat, and tears. I'm like, if you don't have blood, sweat, and tears in your life, you're not doing enough. Period. End of story. Mic drop. Done.
It's about boom. We're finished here, and that was the end of the book. No, you know, people. Why do you think people? I see a lot of it, and I know you do. We've spoken about this in many different places that we've shared voices. Why do you think people revel in their pain? They get comfortable in their pain, Chris.
Because it's certain.
What do you mean by that? It's certain.
People go through life because they want certainty. Certainty equals comfort. Certainty equals predictability. Certainty equals I don't have to get out of my comfort zone. Oh, okay. As long as I'm in my misery, that is certain. If I go outside that comfort zone, then what if I make a mistake? What if I fail? All those things go back to that childhood conditioning of 0 to 5, right? You know, we think about what we've been through at 0 to 5, what our teachers said to us, what our parents did to us, what our brothers and sisters, anybody that was in our life, how did they treat us? Because that's the conditioning process that causes us to be who we are today. And so we have to rewire our thoughts and our opinions about that stuff and become resilient. And for people who don't know about this guy, David Goggins is an excellent example of somebody who was lazy and comfortable and blaming everybody else. And then finally one day something snapped and he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he went ballistic. I don't advocate being a David Goggins, but I advocate having that mindset to reframe your perspective about pain and challenges and mistakes and everything else. Don't care about what everybody else thinks and says, and oh, don't do that. Oh, it's okay. You know, you were abused and you were neglected. Fuck that. No, you just got to go out there and just be who you are. Because at the end of the day, when you're laying on your deathbed, are you going to look back on your life and go, man, I'm so glad I played it safe. Man, I'm so glad I laid in my victimhood my entire life. I've seen people go through that. And the five regrets of the dying.
5 regrets of the dying.
So anybody out there is feeling like a victim, go read the 5 regrets of the dying. I guarantee you will walk away a changed person, because all these people said the number one regret of the dying was, it was written by a hospice nurse, said the number one regret was that they lived the life they thought they were supposed to live rather than living the life they truly wanted to live. And for me, that is frightening. Above any pain or anything, any challenge I have to overcome, I do not want to get to the end of my journey and realize that that I could have been and done something so much more if I'd just gotten out of my own way.
So let's go back. I mean, we know your story, like I said, mention it, but let's go back a little bit, because there had to be a time, Chris, where you recognize, wait a minute, this is not for me anymore. So that's where your resiliency kicked in. What did you do to really put things in perspective? And that's what I want to say. How did you put things in perspective and become that resilient warrior that you are now?
Well, that's another great question. I don't know where exactly it started when I was a kid, but I've always been pretty much resilient due to the fact that my mother was super resilient. She wrote the book on resiliency. But for me, it was after 4 years of being homeless and out on the streets and various situations happening. Tried to kill myself twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. But ultimately, I had a gun put to my head. And I told the guy, pull the fucking trigger. Pull it. I was ready. I figured I'd hear a click and that would be it. And the guy, fortunately, it didn't happen. But I was faced with a decision. And this is the thing I talk about and I teach my clients, is about having leverage. And so I have to go dark places to think about where I'm going to get this leverage. And so I started really examining my whole 17 years with my mom and all the stuff that we went through together and the stuff that she kind of put me through. And I thought, okay, what's going to happen? Let's look down the road 40 years. And I thought about it. I was, homeless and living in a abandoned motel pretty much. And I said, I'm going to get out of this situation in one of 3 ways. either in a cop car because I was doing bad things with bad people, in a pine box because I was doing bad things and trying to kill myself and drinking and drugs and everything else, or I'm going to have to do it for myself. I'm going to have to get up on my own 2 feet. I'm going to have to tell my mom, sorry, Mom, I can't take care of you anymore. Can't have the codependency. I can't have you dragging me down. I'm 17 years old. If I don't get my shit together now, I'm going to wind up working 7 jobs for the rest of my life, probably living in a motel like this, drinking and drugging, and probably die at 50. Do I want?
You did that at 17-year-old. I mean, how many 17-year-old kids actually have an aha moment and turn into a freaking resiliency, start building the resiliency? Because, I mean, we know adults now that are not resilient, and here's the thing that I want to ask you, well, actually make a point on, was that do you think that there are people out there that are adversity free?
They're adversity free. They don't have any adversity in their life.
Yeah.
No, everybody has adversity. It's just the way,
exactly,
the perspective of what we do and what we do with that adversity.
So we all need resiliency.
Yes.
But there's so many people that just are not resilient. They can't face it. And every single person goes through hardship and adversity. But what is a 17-year-old kid? How many 17-year-old kids start to think, shit, I better change my freaking life now, or I'm not going to make it?
I have no idea. I just took one look at my whole entire situation, my whole entire life. My mom won the lottery. We didn't get out of the situation. You know, I was literally killing myself, working 2 jobs and 16 years old. And I had to sit there and put myself into the future. I had to sit there and put my leverage. So whoever's watching this or listening to this, wherever they're at in their life and no matter how old they are. I mean, I coach people 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. Ultimately, you have to have a picture in your mind. Who do you want to be? Why are you here? We have to go back to our identity. And what's the real reason why I'm here? Am I here to sit there and serve my mother and to be a slave to her? No, that's not the reason why I'm here. Okay, why am I here? I'm here.
That's your biggest thing, isn't it? That's what you do all the time. You ask what you need to know your why.
Right. Yeah. So you need to know your why. So for me, it was like I wasn't here to do this. And so I had a bigger picture for myself. And I said, wow, you know, if I'm going to do anything with my life, I have to leave this person. I have to get out of the situation. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that took a lot of courage. That was one of the hardest decisions. I'm even reading it back on my book. I'm writing my book right now. And even a couple of days, actually it was yesterday, I read that part where I had to get to that point and tell my mom, sorry, I'm leaving the motel. I had an opportunity that showed up because I believe God's source universe, when you're ready to start making those changes, they're going to put those opportunities in front of you. And they're also going to put more challenges in front of you as well to see how bad you want it. And you just have to have the mindset, like whatever it is, I'm dedicated to going through it because I'm going to grow through it. And ultimately at the end of the day, I'd rather die trying, blood, sweat, and tears and leave it all on the field than sit there and be like, well, I guess I could have done those other things. Oh, I guess I didn't need to blame everybody. I guess I didn't need to expect somebody to come save me or somebody to come apologize to me. Nobody's going to come apologize to you. Nobody's going to come say anything else. You have to get off your ass and go out there and do it for yourself. And so I ask people.
So you have to develop resiliency. You have to develop resiliency skills.
Yeah, one by one.
What would you say then was your first? What was your first skill, Chris? What was your first skill that you? I mean, I have an idea what your first skill was because you mentioned it, but. What do you feel was your first resiliency skill that you developed in order to get you out of the shit that you were in?
My ability to make a different choice. I chose something different and then took that next progressive action. If I don't get out of the situation, I'm going to wind up dead or in jail. That's the fact. So like dealing with the facts. The fact is, if I don't get out of here, she's not going to change anything. And anybody has to put themselves in that situation. Is your husband going to change? Is your job going to change? No. Okay, what am I going to do? What am I willing to do? What am I willing to sacrifice? Because we have to sacrifice to get out of that comfort zone, to go out there and take that hard journey. So the first thing you have to do is just decide that you're worth it. So it goes back to the whole core component. Do you love yourself? Yes or no? And if you don't love yourself, ask yourself why. Is that based on what other people said, their opinions of you, or the way you're perceiving yourself as being a victim? If you see yourself as being a victim and you don't love yourself, of course you're not going to take any action. But if you decide today, listen, I'm here and I'm a beautiful person, irregardless of what I've been through, I deserve, I'm worthy to be able to go take those next steps. And God damn it, I'm going to go do it. Whether I fall, trip, stumble, I figured I'm going to wind up dead or in jail anyway. So what's the worst that's going to happen? And I just took every single step. I was scared to death every single step that I took. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I didn't sure if she was ever going to talk to me again. I wasn't sure if I was going to be successful. I just put my best foot forward and decided I'm not going to stop until I get there. And I used everybody's, thoughts and things in my head to use me as leverage. And I was like, oh, you don't think I can go back to school? I'm a 7th grade dropout. At 18 years old, I went back and got my GED. So I caught up to everybody graduated, with my GED, and then I went to school, and I was in school for 12 years.
Let me stop you a minute there. So, Pete, there's going to be people in the UK that are listening to this, and they'll go, "What the heck is a GED?" So we don't know what that is. And I'm not in the UK, I'm in the US, so I've got an idea, but there's going to be people that listen. So what is a GED? Is that like your high school diploma?
Yes, so it's called a general equivalency diploma. So say somebody gets pregnant at 16 and they have to drop out of school. This is a way for people to go back to continuation school and earn what's equivalent to a diploma. So I had to go to continuation school. I was amazed because my mentor, Bill White, amazing gentleman, said, "Have you ever thought going back to school?" And I'm like, "Are you crazy? I dropped out in the 7th grade. I was stupid. I was horrible in school. There's no way I'm going to go back to school. I'm not going to make an ass out of myself." And he says, "Well, you could do this thing called continuation school." And so I was scared to death. I had no idea what to do. This was before the internet. So I had to pick up a phone book and I had to start dialing high schools in my area for the GED program. And so ultimately I found it, and I was scared to death to take this test. They said, "You're going to take a test and we're going to see how much you need to learn." And I'm like, they're going to throw me back in the 6th grade. And surprisingly, I was smarter than I actually thought. And I made up all of high school and the 8th grade. I made it up in about 6 months.
So you know what? There's two elements to this, two elements to your story that I want to suggest to you as well, that your first skill wasn't your choice, right? And I want to suggest, and you may say no, but I know you're going to say it. The first skill that you had really was a deep sense of awareness, because you had before you can make the choice, you have to become aware. So you had a deep sense of awareness of something you needed to change, and then you took the action and had made that choice to then go and do it. But there's also, I think, a really freaking important part that you said there, and people may not get this, is that you then had belief in yourself. You had to forge, you had to forge out of fire that belief in yourself, because I guess there was probably times in your life where maybe you questioned your own belief. So in order for you to even pick up that phone, boom, you have to do it.
Yeah, I didn't believe in myself, honestly. I just knew I had to take action. I had to take some action. And so sometimes you have to believe before you believe. And actually, it was Bill White who believed in me before I believed in myself. So I figured if this guy feels that I can do this, I carry his belief with me and go continue to do it. But literally, I was at rock bottom. I just had to go take that first step, whatever it was, no matter how scary it was, be able to take that first step. And once we do that, guys, it's pretty incredible. It's compound interest for your confidence. You take that first step, even just the awareness to say, I'm unhappy and I'm willing to do something about it. It's amazing the release that you can get to be honest with yourself and say, okay, listen, I'm unhappy in my marriage. What am I going to do? I'm going to go talk to my spouse. If it goes bad, then we're going to get a divorce. Is it going to suck? Yes. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Is it going to be terrible? Yes. Is it going to be heartbreaking? Yes. But 3 years down the road, when you're with somebody else, you're going to look back and go, man, I should have done that 20 years ago. And I can't tell you how many times, Jock, I have coached people who said, once they left that person, God, and I've helped people get divorces. I've helped people leave jobs. They was like, oh God, Chris, I wish I would have done that 20 years ago. Where were you 20 years ago? I'm like, you wasted 20 years of your life being comfortably miserable, hoping, wishing, and praying that something was going to change when ultimately it was you, right? And everybody's single. Yep. I just had to take that first step. I had to be aware, like you said, perfectly. And then I had to take that first initial step, and yeah, it sucked and everything else. But on the other side, I learned so much. I gained so much. I had so much more appreciation for when I did find the right person, when I found the right job. And all I want to do is go out there and help other people make those same decisions. I find it in people all the time.
So you think, so here's another thing that you said there. So you're mentioning obviously belief in people that make the choice and the awareness. But I think there's something, again, that people miss out. And this is one of the biggest failures that they have in their resiliency journey is, I mean, you did it, communication, right? You said it, communication. If you don't communicate and even internally for yourself, and also to communicate to a wider field, like you said, you've helped people with relationships, or you've helped people get a divorce or stay together. And that really is about communication. If there's no communication, then there is no resiliency.
So many people are sitting in quiet misery, again, hoping, wishing, and praying that something change. I hear people all the time, like, are you miserable in your relationship? Yes. Have you talked to the person? No. Okay, what are you expecting to happen? Well, they should know that they're doing it. You're stupid. You're flat out stupid. You're flat out stupid. Have the conversation. And if it goes south, then take the progressive action from that point. Don't sit there and hope, wish, and pray. That's ridiculous. So many people do that, and they think that something's going to change when nothing changes until you change. It's got to be a shift in your mind to say, listen, I'm not going to be treated this way anymore. I'm going to have values and boundaries. And so I teach my clients, what are your values? And are you aligned with your values? And everything that you do, is that in alignment with your value? Are you being congruent with who you say you want to be? And if you're not, then what's the next action that I can take? Okay, I'm going to go talk to my husband. Okay, if it goes south, what am I going to do? I'm going to go stay at Natalie's house. I'm going to get my own place. I'm going to go, whatever it is I'm going to do, I'm going to figure it out as I go. But ultimately on the other side of this is a learning lesson and an opportunity for me to grow. And especially with, I teach people with kids, I'm like, what example are you setting for your kids? Are you telling your daughter it's okay to stay in an abusive relationship for 10 years when you knew it was over 10 years ago? Do you want your daughter to repeat that pattern? No. Okay. What are you going to do? Go communicate. You got to communicate. You got to be honest with yourself. I get it all the time. Like, are you happy? Yes or no? No. Okay. What are you unhappy with the most? My job. Are you looking for a new job? No. Then you deserve to be miserable. I'm honest.
And this also goes hand in hand, because you were a corporate leader. You were a corporate leader as well at some point, and you left the corporate world. But this is the same thing. I mean, obviously, there is a weakness in corporate America because do you think it's because there's less resiliency or there's less honesty?
Less honesty.
Really?
When I get people to be honest with themselves, it's incredible what it is they admit and come forth with. I've had some pretty amazing people, pretty amazing confessions that I've had people tell me. That's one of the things that got me into being a coach, is in that corporate space, somebody would come into my office and they would say, Chris, I got a question. They would leave an hour later going, I can't believe I just told you that. I'm like, now you told me that, but what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
Take action.
I check in with them 6 months later.
Choice.
What are you doing with that? Nothing. Like, so you're okay being miserable? You're okay being mediocre? Did you sign up for this trip as a human being to be mediocre, to be complacent? Yes or no? No. Okay. Are you being complacent right now? Yes. What are you going to do? Are you taking care of yourself? I talk to people all the time, like the 5 things: nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise, and vitamin D. If you're not hydrating yourself, if you're not getting proper nutrition, if you're not getting proper sleep, if you're not getting some sunshine every single day, chances are you're going to make shitty decisions. And if you make shitty decisions, you're going to go to that short-term gratification, the booze, the drugs, the shopping, the sex, the whatever it is that takes your mind off your misery. And then you're going to go down that road for 20 years. And then you're going to wake up one day, hopefully, and go, wow, I did that to myself. Nobody did it to me. I did it to myself. So now I have to take responsibility and start taking action.
What about people? Everything you've said really also has a pattern in it, and I would suggest that there's probably a lot of suicides that could be stopped.
Oh yeah,
if we had more resiliency within inside of ourselves, or people were more resilient. Have you come across that as well in your work, in your life?
Oh, 100%.
Have you known people that have taken their own life?
Let me think. I know of people. Let me think personally. I've helped a lot of people not do it. And all the time I do that. I just helped 2 people recently not kill themselves.
All right. So talk about this. So people that you've helped recently, right, that were suicidal, do you feel that they had a weakness in their resiliency shield?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
They were so clouded.
So what tools did you give them to stop them doing that?
In this particular situation, I used his kids. I said, is it okay for you to go ahead and take your life and leave your kids all by themselves without a dad? Are you good with that? Would you have been okay with your dad killing himself and then leaving you all alone? What was your relationship like your dad? It was awesome. Do your kids deserve that? Yes. Did you sign up to have kids to carry on through being a dad? Yes. Then what are you going to do, dude? Really? Like, you have to have a bigger why. What is your why? Yes, you're under stress. Yes, you have all these different things going on in your life, but you have an amazing opportunity right now to show your kids. You have he has 3 kids, all under the age of 12. I'm like, you have an amazing opportunity right now to show your kids what it means to stand up and be unstoppable. You have an amazing opportunity for your kids to see, wow, this is what dad does. This is what I get to do in my life. I said, you take your life, you're telling your kids it's okay to just quit. I said, is that okay for your kids? Do you want your kids to just kill themselves at 17 after you don't care? And I just got real with the dude. I said, if you're going to do it, then do it, but don't involve your kids, right? And so he didn't.
What do you think what did you give him? I mean, obviously, what do you think awoke in him? Did you give him? So there's obviously a really good gift. There's a tool that's there. And what did you actually give him that he woke up to that? Okay, I'm not going to do it. That, I'm going to be resilient.
Yeah, a bigger reason other than himself. He was being a victim. He was being like, oh man, I'm tired of all these things happening to me. I'm like, dude, just get your head out of your ass. It's not.
So you gave him meaning. You gave him meaning and passion and purpose.
He was leverage. That's the biggest thing is leverage. We need leverage. If we don't have leverage, we're not going to move. You can't move a boulder with a little stick. You need a bigger stick. So when you think about the situations that you're in, you need to find that leverage. And for me, it's not having regrets. For me, it's setting an example for my kids. For me, it's not getting to the end of my journey and realizing I could have been so much more. Yeah, the pain and the anguish and the betrayal and the hurt and the deceit, everything that I've had in my life, yes, it sucks. Yes, there were many times I wanted to give up, but I got up the next day and I said, okay, what can I focus on as far as being grateful? Because oftentimes we're always focused on the things that are going wrong, so we attract more of that. So I tell people, look around the room right now and tell me what's blue. If I tell you to look around the room, you're going, that's blue, that's blue, that's blue, that's blue. I'm going to say, okay, what was red? You're like, Chris, you were telling me what to look. You were telling me to look for blue. The same thing happens in our life. If you start looking at what you're grateful for, the fact that you
just anesthesia, isn't it?
Yeah, you can. If you start figuring out what you're grateful for, and you focus more on that, the reticular activation system in our brain says, "What else can I be grateful for?" And you start overwhelming the toxicity of thinking about negativity. We get rewired to say, "Wow, I'm actually grateful. I have technology right now. I can go look on my phone. Like I can literally find any answer to any question to anything I want right here." Like I tell people all the time, the answer's right here. You just have to type it in and do it. That's it. You just have to type it in and do it. Just do it. Okay, well then live like that. I'm no fashion. I mean, if you want to sit there and stew in that, most of the people, 99% of the people that work with me as coaching clients always succeed. I'm in it to win it. And I have no problem being as hard, as loving as I possibly can be for people to have that shift, to wake up. You have to literally shake people up. I've had to be rude. I've had to be mean. I have had to do all sorts of things. And finally it clicks. And did you see it? Like, oh. And then from that point on, everything starts to change.
So when did you find a great tool in, resiliency is understanding that you have, developing meaning and purpose, right? When did you develop your meaning in life? When did you find not so much your purpose, but when did you recognize, I mean something, I've got meaning in my life?
That's a great question. There's been separate points in my life where I think I've been becoming more awake in separate situations. But I think the biggest thing for me was back in 2008. I was already a professional speaker and a coach by then, but I was comfortably miserable. I was still drinking. I was successful and everything, but there was something about me that wasn't right. And I didn't have a clearer picture. I was surviving day to day, trying to prove myself to everybody. I wasn't seeing the big picture of where am I going? And so I went to a funeral with one of my coworkers, and I sat at the back of the church. And instinctively, just a question came to me and said, Chris, if you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And I figured 10 or 15 people would show up and they'd bring cases of Miller Genuine Draft and bottles of Jack Daniels and Bon Jovi and Motley Crue records and talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. Oh my God, remember when he did that? Remember what he did? Because I've done a lot of stupid, crazy shit in my life. I've done things to make people laugh. I've chased girls. I've done all sorts of stuff. And I figured, is that the way I want to be remembered? Really? I've done so much more. I've overcome being homeless. I was a 7th grade dropout. And so I went home and long story short, I wrote my eulogy. And when I was done, I read it back to myself. And when I got to the middle part, I started crying. And that says that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered. And he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. I was crying and I was like, wow, that's the meaning. That's the leverage. That's the picture of my life. So every day when I wake up, as long as I have that vision in my mind of who I'm becoming, no matter what it takes, I know I'm going to get there. And if this is the last thing I ever do and my son watches this, he'll know that his dad was on point. I'm setting the example.
So you were literally visualizing your future 10 years, 20 years down the line.
100%. And from that
point that's an important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're in that cycle of abuse of yourself and you need to find resilience, sometimes you've got to have a visualization of what you could be or what you aspire, what you desire to be, because that's where it gives you that rocket fuel. As you had, you saw yourself, well, here I am now, this is Chris me, and I'm not freaking happy with this. So what do I want? What do I visualize myself in the future?
Exactly. And I'll give you an updated thing. So for me, I don't always have perfect days. I'm the no excuses coach. I'm super great at it. I have my own days. I have periods of depression and anxiety, but I keep this right in front of me. Try to see if you can see that. Can you see that?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you showed that me loads of times. I love that picture.
So for people listening, it says, you never know how close you are. Never give up on your dreams. And it shows this guy picking away at diamonds and he gives up and the other guy just keeps going. It's like, even in your hardest part of life, you keep going. You don't give up. You
never give up.
If it's not the right goal that you're going after, if you're going after somebody else's goal, that's ridiculous. But go after your goal and just know that every day, in every way, as long as you're grateful and you're living your purpose, no matter what happens, you know you're going to make it through. And you know that you have the perspective that it's making you stronger. I mean, that's why I tattooed it on my arm. What doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. It's right there. Back in 2016, as recent as 2016, I was going through a bad time. I was going through depression. I was wondering what the hell is this life for? I was really frustrated. I stopped coaching for 6 months. I just took a break because I wasn't being congruent. I was giving everybody the advice, but I wasn't taking it myself. And so I needed that clarification for myself to bounce back and sit there and say, you know what, Chris, you're having a moment, restructure what you're focusing on, take a break, give yourself some leniency, and then regroup and move forward. And that's when I got my coach, actually.
And actually, you've never, that's one thing about you is you never give up. But there's been days that you want to give up.
Yeah. Trust me.
And the thing is, we all have that.
Yeah. I'm like, really? I'm going to die anyway? Why should I keep doing this shit? I mean, now for my son, especially, I mean, obviously I'm not going to do that. But there were points before I had my kid. I'm like, so the end of the road, I'm going to die anyway? Like, the end of the story is that?
What's the point?
Okay. Yeah. But then I said, you know what?
And if you believe in karma, you don't want to come back and do that shit again, do you?
No. So I just reframed my perspective and said, you know what? I'm going to enjoy it for everything I could possibly have out of it and use my skills to make this world a better place. And so that's what I honestly do every single day. As long as I'm doing that, I know I'm living on point. So no matter the pain or the discouragement or frustration, I know it's all happening to teach me certain lessons so I can, again, teach other people the same lessons.
So you found purpose and passion in your pain.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because most people cower to their pain. And that's why you sit there and Steve Harvey has an excellent video out there. It's called Jump. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And so he talks about the fact that we compare ourselves to everybody else. Well, those people are doing that and they look so happy. And we see a 2-second snapshot on Instagram. We think their life is all put together when, quite honestly, before that shot was taken, the people were probably arguing and you have no idea. You have no idea the context of what that person is, but you're sitting there saying, I want to be like them. Well, they jumped. They jumped. Their parachute didn't open right away, but guess what? Their back got scraped up and everything else, but their parachute opened. You don't jump, your parachute will never open.
So let me ask you this, Chris. How do you deal with your own fear? Because obviously, fear is a big thing. It can be a big hurdle, or it can be the greatest teacher we have, especially as we're talking about resiliency. Fear is one of those things that can really make or break you. How have you in your life then overcome that? And what can you tell other people how to deal with their fears to make them more resilient?
Great question. There's an amazing book out there. I've read hundreds, if not probably thousands of books by now. There's a book out there called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I think it's Susan Jeffers is that one. I'm starting to get my authors a little mixed up. But Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I've studied that book and I was just like blown away at the perspective of the fact that 98% of all fears that we have are just up here. It's either,
mentally,
it's like the fear of expectations appearing real. If you have an expectation that, that's going to happen and then you're going to be fearful of it, then guess what? So for me, instead, when I feel fear, I switch my perspective on it and I turn it to excitement. And I'll tell you why. Fear and excitement are the same thing. It's just about your perspective about it. I was at Magic Mountain here in Southern California, standing in line for Colossus, the biggest roller coaster at the time there. And right in front of me, the people were super excited. It was a group of about 6 or 7 people. They were super excited. Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun. We're going to put our hands in the air, We're going to be so excited and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then it took us 2 hours to get through the ride. And then behind me, 2 groups behind me, they're like, well, it's kind of high. And what if the bar breaks? And, what if this and what if this? And so the people behind me were scared and the people in front of me were excited for the same thing. And so that made me think, wow, fear is just another way of turning it into excitement. And the fact that 98% of all fears just live in our brain, again, what am I to be afraid of? I should be excited about this. I should be excited that I get to face my fear and go experience this. Now, I'm not a big fan of jumping out of airplanes, so I'm not going to run and jump out of an airplane anytime soon. But that fear,
especially when you know it's going to freaking land.
Yeah, I don't even want to go up in a plane. I don't even like planes. But you sit there and you think about that fear. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of failure. Well, when have you learned the most? Failing is not the falling down. Failing is the staying down. And so when you think about it, you learn from your mistakes, yes or no? Yes. Okay, go make more of them. When I tell people that, have you learned from your mistakes? For the most part. And I said, go make more of them. And they think,
because that teaches you. That's why the fear can teach you the greatest lessons.
Right. Go back to when you're a kid. If you made a mistake, you were bad. Oh, Jock, you made a mistake. You're bad. You're punished. Okay, so don't make any more mistakes. Don't piss off anybody who I love and care about. I need to have that validation, that significance. I've boiled it down to this, Jock. When you make somebody feel significant, That love and everything else is important. That wraps up into it. When somebody feels significant, when you make somebody feel significant or you feel significant, nothing can stop you. And so if you're having that fear of failure and mistakes, guess what? That's only in your brain. Most people aren't even thinking about you, but you think that they are. And then I've seen people, you read that book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. The people that were going to judge them are dead and they're not living their life. And they're like, I was worried about that. It's ridiculous. You didn't sign up to be complacent. You didn't sign up to be living in somebody else's judgment. This is your life. You get to either exist in it or you actually get to go out and live it. It's your choice.
So the reality is, what you're saying is as well is that your mind is your reality. So what you create in your mind, you create in your reality. And so you've got to get to grips. If you want to be resilient, you've got to get to grips with your mind. You want to get over fear, you've got to get grips. You've got to get, say that again?
I said that's part of it. There's another aspect.
What's the other parts? What's the other aspects?
The other aspect I've determined in 20 years of coaching, it's who you surround yourself with. So you're like the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So when you read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I highly recommend, in there it talks about you're like the 5 people you're around the most. So take out a piece of paper, write down the 5 people you're around the most, be honest, and then are they positive or negative? Are they constructive or deconstructive? However you want to put it. And if they're not being positive and constructive and telling you to go out there and make failures and go out there and make mistakes and go out there and live your dreams and take chances, then you need new people in your life. If everybody's like, oh, it's okay to stay safe and misery loves company again. Oh, we're all a group of victims. Oh, we'll just sit here and eat ice cream and bonbons and drink, beer and everything. Oh, poor us. If you're around people that don't suggest that you go out there and risk for which that matters, then you need new people. And that's what changes for everybody. Once somebody hires me as a coach, everything changes because then they start associating with different people. Number one. Number two, I get them to write down what they're tolerating. So many times we're tolerating so much stuff and we feel the weight of the world on ourselves. I ask people, what would it feel like if you didn't tolerate anything anymore? Oh my God, I would have so much freedom. I would be happier. I'd be this. And you see the physiology in their face change. I'm like, okay, I want you to write down what you're tolerating from yourself, what you're tolerating from other people, and what you're tolerating from inanimate objects. So through the next week, they come back and they
see that when you've had a few beers. Psychology.
Shit that stays still. There we go. Shit that's not a person, right? I'm pointing to my stereo. And you come back and they come back and they're all embarrassed. Like, well, I found 5 things out of each category. I'm the fuck you found 5. The bullshit. I'll go back and you spend another week doing this. And I kid you not, probably about 95% of the people come back with like just a few things. I'm like, if you were just tolerating that few things, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. So like, be honest. You got to be honest. Are you tolerating the fact that your husband doesn't put the dishes away? Are you tolerating the fact that your son doesn't put his laundry? What is it? You're tolerating the fact that the doorknob in the front door sticks every single time. So you have to, what are you tolerating? Because it all adds up. It's all one more. Oh, here comes the door. Oh, then my son. Oh, this. And you already have paint a picture of how miserable your life is going to be. Stop tolerating that shit. And so when they come back, they have a lot. I'm like, wow, Chris, I didn't realize what I was tolerating. I'm like, you're tolerating too much. Yes. Yes. Okay. What are we going to do about it? You just agreed you're tolerating too much. What's the next action? What's the biggest thing that you could tackle that'll give you more freedom and energy and opportunity to focus on what's important to you? Or let's tackle the low hanging fruit. What are like 5 or 6 things that if you got rid of them would give you another hour or 2 every day? And I guess I could.
Do you think trust, Chris? Do you think trust comes into play? Because obviously, how have you learned to? Do you trust people?
Do I trust people? Initially, yes.
I know. For me, trust is a big issue for me. So I know that trust plays into resiliency and trust plays into.
I tend to be cynical, but for the most part, I'm not going to hold anybody in my future responsible for things that have happened in my past because so many people do that. I've seen a lot of people. I was a relationship coach for about 10 years of my coaching, and people would come to me and they're like, I just can't find anybody and da-da-da. And I would be immediately, I could tell within a few minutes, I'm like, well, you're so guarded that nobody wants to be around you. Like I don't want to get hurt anymore. But like you're putting out this energy, this vibe that nobody's attracted to you because you're like, well, I don't want to get hurt again. And you have to prove to me that you're going to be okay and you're not going to hurt me. The person will be like, okay, you're freaking wounded, man. I'm not going to pay attention to you. They want somebody who is open and honest. And you have to have that sense of awareness, like you said before, and that sense of curiosity and adventure. Like when we're kids, Jock, we were curious, we were adventurous. We had no limits on our.
Yeah, we don't have that now. A lot of us don't have that now, do we? We don't have that curious spirit.
No, it was bashed out of us again by parents. Get your head out of the clouds. You got to be realistic. Stop daydreaming.
Yeah.
All those people were told as kids to go out there and do that. Then all of a sudden, like, I'm going to be a fireman. Shut up. You're not going to be a fireman. You go get a job in the accounting department like dad.
Yeah, I was asked what I wanted to be. I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just said God. I thought I worked with I thought I'd I'd work my way from the top to the bottom.
There you go. I'm going to lead your ass.
It's not working for me. I can't be that one.
You're a god in my life, brother.
Okay, you flatter me. So yeah, so how did you learn to trust then? Because I guess, from everything that you've experienced, there must have been an element of you that, you had to learn to trust because you couldn't trust people. I mean, you do that now. You say that you can be a bit cynical, but you trust people and, until, they prove they don't trust. But surely, in order for you to be resilient as you have been in your life, you must have had to learn to trust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to when I was 17, when I met my girlfriend's parents, Bill and Beverly White. I was a long-haired rock and roller, leather jacket wearing, smoking dude that had been homeless, right? And I thought,
yeah,
okay.
And follow him on Facebook, because you'll see some of his pictures where he's there giving it all the...
Oh, yeah. Her parents, I thought her parents were going to take one look at me. They were from an upper middle class family, lived in a really nice neighborhood here in Southern California. I thought, this guy's going to take one look at me and tell, you can't date my daughter. You're scum. You're trash. And he never did that. And he saw in me. He saw within me. And so I let down my barriers and my guards, because I'm like, this guy cares, right? I could see the signs. And so I had to trust him. And because I trusted him, I started trusting other people, and that started opening the door. And then through my study of psychology.
So it was him. So it was Bill White that he taught you how to trust then.
Yeah, he taught me to trust myself. He taught me to have faith in myself. Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's what I wanted to get. I missed that because I meant to say as well, you had to learn to trust yourself, because I think there's so many people fail to even trust themselves. And that's why they go around the cycle of abuse that they find themselves in.
Because it's comfortable and it's familiar. Yeah.
Comfortable in the pain.
Yeah. I just keep, okay, as long as I have the short-term gratification to ignore everything, then I'll deal with it. Everybody says, I'll deal with it until the pain. Tony Robbins talks about the fact that we do things for two reasons: to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. So if you ask yourself right in this moment, what am I doing? Am I gaining pleasure out of this, or am I avoiding pain? And then again, you got to be honest. That's the key. That's a critical component, is being honest. When I ask people, are you happy in your life? Yes or no? Sorta. I'm like, is it okay to be sorta happy, or should you be like over the top happy? Well, I think I deserve to be over the top happy. Okay. What do you need to change about your thinking in order to believe that? And so we just walk it.
Yeah, see, it's that thinking again. It's your mindset.
Yeah. What
do you think,
change your attitude about that?
Do you feel that people who have gone through hardship, like yourself, can become immediately resilient, or do you think it's something they have to work at?
That's a great question. I've seen both situations. I've seen people have to progressively get into it, and I've seen people snap and just change their mind. I've seen people who were massively obese and overweight that one day they just became massively resilient. They just, a light clicked, and they're just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I teach my coaching clients to no longer be that person you were yesterday. So I'm just going to wish that person well. That person got me to where I'm at today. That was yesterday's Chris. Whenever I quit drinking or anything else, that was yesterday's Chris. This is today's Chris. Who am I going to choose to be today? That was yesterday. That's all just electrical energy in our brain. The past is not physical in any way, shape, or form. It's how we perceive it. So I read a ton of books. And so I recommend to people, investigate, go learn, go grow, go read a book. Not only just read a book, but go apply what it is that you read in a book. I'll give you an example how lazy people are. People come to me and they want coaching. I'm like, Chris, I can't afford you, but I still want help. I'm like, okay, here's these 5 books. I will give you these 5 books to go read. You can go read them at a library, Barnes & Noble. You don't even have to buy them. You probably can steal them off the internet. 5 books. I want you to do 3 things from these 5 books in the next 6 months. Can you do that? Can you read 5 books in 6 months? And can you apply 3 things without fail out of those 3 books? Yes or no? And some people sit there. I'm like, seriously? You can't read 5. Can you read? Yeah. Okay. Can you read 2 pages a day? Yeah. Okay. Then you can read 5 books in 6 months. Jesus Christ. And I get like that. I'm like, really? You're going to sit there and give yourself that answer? Come on. I think, yeah. Yes, Chris, I can read that. Own that shit. Yes, I can read that. Yes, I want to read that. Yes, I want to apply those things. Well, I'm like, you sound like you're halfway in it. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want this? You want it a 5? Do you want it a 7? Do you want it a 10? You should want it a 10. If you don't want
You know what? I put this down. You've heard me say this before. You've heard me talk about the Keurig Effect, right? Where people want to put that freaking coffee in, put the pod in, boom, bam, I have coffee. People don't want to freaking work for it.
No.
They don't want to work for their happiness. And they don't want to work for their resiliency. And they don't want to work to change their lives. They want an instant, as you mentioned earlier, they want instant gratification.
And I think that's also a societal problem, because when you think back when we were kids, we didn't have microwaves. We didn't have Amazon. You had to go to the store if you wanted to eat. So now there's so many creature comforts that to actually get up and go move, that seems like something out of character. So for our younger generation, I can understand how they're like, well, can't I just have it right now? I can, no, you can't. You actually have to go out. You actually have to go out there and work for it. And so the parents out there who condition their kids to be lazy, they're not doing them any favors. And I've seen so many parents. I got a friend of mine, her kid's 22 years old, that's never done laundry. And she's like, I don't understand why he won't leave the house. I'm like, you don't, what? Like, he's got it made. You have placated that poor kid that he's screwed for another 10 years unless you start doing some shit right now. You have to have some tough love. And I've had...
No, I remember when we had our first episode, and ladies and gentlemen, like I say, go back and listen to it, because he goes really deep into his story. But we talked about, in that last episode, we talk about where you had literally no food, and I think you were picking up cans or something, and you're living, there's 15, 20 million freaking cats in a car, and and the rest. But you had this, fight, this fire in you. When did you get your first job, and how did it feel? Because that's another part of resiliency. You took action physically and also mentally. Now, did you become, and in many ways you did, you looked after your mother in the end, and that's amazing. But you got your first job. What switched you over to, I've got to get a job, I got to do something? What was your first job?
Well, one of the, I have to give my mom credit for this. She, as many things as she put me through that were challenging and wrong, let's just put it that way. She taught me to be resilient, because she never stopped. Like, she would never stop. She just kept going. We keep going. We work hard. We don't play until we've done our work. The resiliency factor, of becoming homeless at the age of 13, I was forced to become unstoppable. I was forced to keep up. I was forced to do those things. So I created a structure in my mind, like, okay. And that actually came to bite me back in the ass later on in life when I was going through therapy. Like said, Chris, when did you stop being a kid? And I said, I don't know, maybe 9 years old. And I started thinking about it. And she goes, what do you do for fun? I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, I do this. I said, I realized I had a sense of, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I couldn't have fun until I did the work. So like, I can do anything I want. Literally, I built my life to do anything I want. I could sit here and play video games for the rest of the day if I wanted to. But I had this guilt. I had this guilt. Like, oh, if I'm not working, then I'm not providing. I'm not proving myself. And so I had this guilt surrounded about myself that I wouldn't. I was always constantly busting my ass. I would go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would work until 10 o'clock at night, because I had to prove to everybody that I was worthy. And that goes back to my childhood conditioning. I was always wanting mom's approval. And so when we think about, again, that conditioning process that happens between 0 and 5 teaches us that resiliency. But to answer your question, I washed cars when I was 10 years old. I cleaned people's houses when I was 12 years old. But my first technical real job when I was 15 years old, I worked for Carl. I actually just read this yesterday in my book. I worked for Carl's Jr. I lied because I had facial hair. So I told him that I was 16, so I didn't need a work permit. And so I started working at Carl's Jr. It was my first job. And
that's being resilient, ladies and gentlemen. That's being resilient.
Working at a fast food place, that is misery. I worked there for almost 2 years until I got fired because I wouldn't, for insubordination, because I wouldn't cut my hair. My hair was barely touching my collar, and like, you have to cut your hair. It has to be above the collar. I'm like, get bent. Nobody cares how long my hair is. And then after that, I worked telemarketing jobs, and I worked a construction job and data entry jobs for a temp agency. I've done a whole lot of stuff.
Chris, your story's amazing, and I want to jump on because you're writing in your book. Just before we finish off, obviously, because I've got another appointment I need to get to. But you've been writing. Tell us a little bit about your book that's coming out, because it's really about your resiliency story, isn't it? It's really about it.
It is. It's right there.
And he's got a mock-up. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that are watching on the podcast video.
Yeah, it's just you and me, kid. A true story of a mother and son survival on the streets of Southern California. That's going to probably change, but yeah, it's been a one of the most challenging activities of my life. It's one thing for me to come on a show and sit there and say, I was a homeless 7th grade dropout, blah, blah, blah. I was beaten, I was abused, I was bullied, blah, blah, blah. I was hungry, had the shit, all these different things. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to write it in vivid detail, to put the reader in that frame of mind, to feel that pain, to feel that uncertainty. So to go back and relive this has been not traumatizing, but it's been uncomfortable and awkward at points. So again, being the no excuses coach, I asked myself, how can I shift my perspective about how I'm viewing this? And so what I've done with the book is at the end of each chapter, I have this retrospect and lessons where I talk about now from my adult age, the things that I've learned and the things I've seen from those experiences, what they've taught me today. So I'm trying to take this reader through not only this tragic up and down story, but giving them lessons along the way for them to look within their own selves, where they're at in their life, to see what they can let go and see what they can do with their own life to become successful. And it's brutal. I have 169,000 words.
That's big.
First had it. I'm halfway through
Yeah, you got to cut that down now, dude, didn't you? I mean, really got to cut that down.
A little bit. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sitting there looking for what to cut down, and all the stories, there's some stories I can get rid of, but my full intention was to get everything out and then be able to go back and kind of mold it and shape it. I wrote it for my son. I mean, God forbid.
That's probably 2 books. I mean, that's probably part 1 and part 2 if you kept everything at 169,000 words.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll skin it down. This is only the aspect of my life with my mom. It doesn't even talk about, almost being an alcoholic and all sorts of other things later on in life. So yeah, it's an incredible story, and I'm proud of it. I'm literally like reading it back to myself out loud, literally in my head going, fuck, how did you make it? Like, I would give anything to go back.
That's resiliency, see?
Have a video to see how I did it, to see how I made it through. I'm like, how did we have 18 cats and 4 dogs in the car? I'm like writing it going, how did we do that? Like, I'm not kidding, Jock. Like, how did we do that? But we did it. And I know people are going to be like, it was a station wagon. It was a huge station wagon, but still, we did it. I mean, there was no lying. It's 100% freaking fact.
It must have stank. It must have had a bit of a stank. It's stinking there.
It was bad. It was bad, especially when it rained. It would get moisture inside. It was the wet dogs. It was horrible. Literally, I write about this in the book, that because we always did our laundry. I mean, we'd go to laundromats. So when I went to sleep, we would pull our sleeping bags and our blankets out of a bag, so I could smell the comforter. So when I went to sleep, I pulled the blanket over my face so I could smell the fabric softener to go to sleep. It's no joke. But I want to share this with everybody. So we talk about resiliency and everything else, and you talk about finding meaning and purpose in that big why. I was invited to go back to the school I dropped out of in the 7th grade. I got invited back there years ago in 2006 or something like that. It's a video on my YouTube page. Actually, I need to bring that out and kind of show more of that. But I was invited.
Absolutely.
That I dropped out of. And when I saw the 7th and 8th grade class walk in, I was blown away at how little they were. Because at 13 years old, I thought I was a man. I mean, I had to go through so much even before that. But I saw these kids walking, and I'm like, there's no way I was that young when I was doing these things. I thought they were pulling a joke on me. They were so young. So I gave the presentation. I did 2 presentations, one to the 7th grade class and one to the 8th grade class. And after each one, dude, I thought, okay, everybody's going to go, okay, we're done with the assembly, as we were kids. And the kids lined up to talk to me. I had this line going out the building. Kids like, oh, hey, I'm homeless right now. Hey, my mom's on drugs and I'm living at Olive Crest Children's Foundation, which is a place I mentor kids at. Or, kid after kid, can I give you a hug? And I'm like, I just want to tell you guys, my biggest message, I'm looking up at the bleachers. Everybody's standing up there. I can still see it vividly. There's a picture of me. I run up to the bleachers and take a picture with all the kids. It's so cool. I'm like right in the middle wearing my KISS shirt. And I said to the kid, I get chills when I think about it. I'm like, you guys are going to go through so much. I said, when I look at the picture of myself when I was like 7, 8 years old, I'm like, dude, you're going to go through so much in your life that you're going to want to quit, and you're going to try to quit. You're going to try to give up, but God, you're going to make it. You're going to do it. And when you get on the other side, you're going to be so much more empowering and convincing and confident to be able to help other people. It's a wonder that I can even do this. I wasn't allowed to speak up. I was told to shut up. I need to have confidence. It has been a long, long, long road with antidepressant medicines and therapists and a ton of books and coaches and seminars. I've constantly kept being curious about what I can continue to do. Even last night, I was sitting there watching an Ed Milet interview going, ooh, I can apply that every single day in every single way. How can I become just a little bit better? That's resiliency, is deciding what little thing can I do today that by which I'll be just a little bit different tomorrow.
That's awesome. Chris, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being on with me again. I love spending time with you and sharing in your wisdom and knowledge. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, get in touch with Chris. You'll find him at ChristopherRausch.com. And this is what it's about. This is, if you want to understand what resiliency is, there you have. There's a spiritual warrior right there. That's what the show's about, bringing you these powerhouses in warriorship. And Chris, last message for everybody out there that you can give them. Quick 2-minute, boom.
Absolutely. And for people that might be easier for them to remember, aside from ChristopherRausch.com, is noexcusescoach.com. So we did that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, how do you spell Rausch? And I'm like, okay, let's say noexcusescoach.com. So you guys could go there. All my 2 podcasts, I do Law and Unscripted. Every week I do the Unfiltered Experience. So I'm doing 2 podcasts a week that are video casts. But to close it out, I'm going to give the advice that Bill gave me when I was 17 years old, just freshly out of a holy terror of a situation. He said, Christopher, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. You're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. So if you don't think you can, the Henry Ford quote, this is, if you think you can, you're right. The same thing applies. So you got to start changing the parameters of your life. Change the parameters of your values, change who you're surrounding yourself with, get honest, get real, reach out to me. Since anybody's listening to this, I'll do this. I'm just doing this. As a matter of fact, if you've been listening to the show this time, reach out to me and I'll give you a complimentary coaching session. Just my way of saying thank you, for you, to give you a head start on what it is that you need to do with your life. We got to make this world a better place for our kids. I don't care whatever has gone on in your life. The kids of this world, I don't care if you don't have kids, the kids in this world need you. They need us to be able to leave this place better for them and not all fucked up like it is right now. So it's incumbent upon us as adults to get our shit together and go out there and make this world a better place each and every day that we're blessed to be alive. I'm pleasure to be with you, brother. I love you. And I'm Christopher Rausch. No Excuses Coach.
And he's awesome, Chris. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what resiliency is, you know what it is now. This is Jock, and this is 21 Virtues. God bless. Well, there you go, guys. That was Chris, and again, another on-fire conversation. But let us know, what did you pick up from it? What did you learn from it? I know for me, I've learned a lot from Chris, understanding how he has been a resilient, a fighter, a warrior through his life, and he now uses those skills to serve others. But what did you find out from it? Let us know in the comments. What questions do you have about his journey or what he was saying? And if you've watched the other episode, go back and watch it again and bring us your questions. But let us know. Let us know what you thought of this episode. This is Jock. This is 21 Virtues. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one. God bless.